Chosen one, why does their face appear in your prayers when you've tried so hard to forget them? Why does their name echo in the silence of 3 a.m. when you thought you'd finally moved on? Why, after all this time, after all the hurt, after all the distance, why does God keep bringing them back into your spirit like a tide that refuses to stop returning to the shore? Chosen one, listen to me carefully. There is a person God keeps placing on your heart, no matter how far they've drifted, no matter how long the silence has stretched, no matter how many times you've whispered, "Lord, I'm done. I can't do this anymore." Their spirit keeps circling back into yours, because heaven hasn't closed that chapter. And you already know who I'm talking about, don't you? That name that just flashed through your mind, that face you just saw behind your closed eyes, that ache that suddenly pressed against your chest. That wasn't coincidence, beloved. That was confirmation. You've been carrying something heavy, haven't you? The loneliness of loving someone from a distance, the fear whispering, "Maybe it's too late," the shame of feeling foolish for still hoping, the exhaustion of praying the same prayer for months, years, maybe even decades. And some of you, listen to me, some of you have been wondering if you're losing your mind, if this connection is real, or if you've created a fantasy, if God really speaks through these persistent thoughts, or if it's just your stubborn heart refusing to let go. But what if I told you that God is like the tide? He keeps washing the same name onto the shore of your heart because there's something unfinished, something sacred, something that only heaven can see clearly. Before we go deeper into this mystery together, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Spirit lead your heart. Now, if you already feel that stirring in your chest, if their initials are burning on your tongue right now, type them in the comments. Let heaven see your courage. Let the cloud of witnesses know you're ready to understand what God is doing. Because, chosen one, hear me clearly. You're not imagining this connection. You're not holding on to false hope. You're not wasting your prayers. God keeps choosing that person for you because the assignment is not finished. And what I'm about to reveal will explain why. Have you ever wondered why some people leave your life completely vanish like smoke, while one particular person keeps returning to your thoughts, your prayers, your dreams, no matter how hard you try to let them go? Why does their face appear in your mind during worship when you're supposed to be focused on God? Why, after all these years, after all the silence, after all the hurt, why can't you shake the feeling that your story with them isn't finished? Listen to me carefully, beloved. What you're experiencing isn't weakness. It isn't obsession. It isn't your mind playing tricks on an aging heart that's grown sentimental with time. This is something far more profound. This is divine assignment. You see, there are people who pass through our lives like travelers. They teach us something, they take something, and then they're gone. We remember them fondly, but we don't carry them in our chest like a second heartbeat. We don't wake at 3 a.m. wondering if they're okay. We don't find ourselves praying for them when we haven't spoken in months or even years. But then there are the others, the ones whose names God keeps writing on your heart in invisible ink that only shows up in the quiet moments. The ones you've tried to release, tried to forget, tried to categorize as a season that's past, but their spirit keeps circling back into yours like a homing pigeon that refuses to land anywhere else. And if you're sitting there right now, nodding your head because you know exactly who I'm talking about, then hear this truth that will change everything. Some souls are not visitors in your journey. They are landmarks. They are divine assignments wrapped in human form. Scripture is filled with these spiritually magnetic relationships that defied logic, distance, and even death itself. Look at Ruth and Naomi. When tragedy struck and Naomi told Ruth to go back to her own people to find a younger life, an easier path, what did Ruth say? "Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God." Ruth 1:16. That wasn't just loyalty, beloved. That was spiritual magnetism. That was divine assignment. Consider David and Jonathan. 1 Samuel 18:1 tells us the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. Knit, not tied, not connected. Knit, woven together at a depth that transcends casual friendship. Even when Jonathan's own father wanted David dead, even when choosing David meant betraying his family, Jonathan couldn't disconnect. Why? Because God had assigned them to each other. Think about Paul and Timothy, an old apostle and a young disciple, separated by decades of age and experience. Yet Paul writes in Philippians 2:20, "I have no one else like him. After all his travels, all his converts, all the thousands who heard him preach, he had no one like Timothy." That's divine selection, not human preference. Abraham couldn't abandon Lot, even when Lot made terrible choices. Moses couldn't walk away from Aaron, even when Aaron built the golden calf. Peter couldn't stop loving the church, even after he'd denied Christ 3 times. Do you see the pattern? God assigns certain people to your path, and no amount of distance, disappointment, or time can sever what heaven has sewn together. Now I know what some of you have been through. You tried to disconnect. You tried to convince yourself it was unhealthy to care this much about someone who's hurt you, left you, or simply grown distant with time. You blamed your age. "I'm too old to be feeling this way." You blamed timing. If it was meant to be, it would have happened by now. You blamed geography. They live 3 states away, and I'm 82 years old. You blamed misunderstanding. We just couldn't communicate. And still, their name wouldn't leave your spirit. Still, you found yourself praying for them at the oddest moments. Still, you wondered if they were okay, if they were happy, if they ever thought about you the way you thought about them. That persistence isn't pathology, dear one. That's prophecy. That's God saying, "I'm not finished with this connection." Because here's the truth that will set you free. God doesn't repeat what he wants you to release, but he will absolutely, relentlessly, persistently repeat what he wants you to recognize. If God wanted you to forget them, their memory would fade like morning mist. If God wanted you to move on, he would stop writing their name on your heart. If God wanted that chapter closed, he wouldn't keep bringing them up in your prayer time, in your quiet moments, in your dreams. The repetition isn't punishment, it's preparation. God is preparing both of you for something that can only happen in his timing, through his methods, according to his perfect plan. Some of you right now are feeling something break open in your chest. Something that's been locked for years is suddenly breathing again. Because you've been carrying guilt, thinking maybe you were just being stubborn, selfish, or foolish for not being able to let them go. But what if your inability to release them is actually God's refusal to revoke the assignment? What if the reason they keep coming back into your spirit is because heaven hasn't said goodbye yet? So the question burning in your heart right now isn't, "Why can't I move on?" The real question, the one that changes everything, is this: what is God trying to complete through this connection that you don't yet understand? You want to know why this connection has been so hard, why every step forward feels like you're dragging chains, why the moment you feel close, something rips you apart again. Let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. When God writes a connection, hell tries to smudge the ink. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. The warfare you've been experiencing around this relationship isn't random. It's not bad luck. It's not poor timing. It's strategic. It's calculated. It's spiritual opposition against something heaven has ordained. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on connections that don't matter. He doesn't deploy his finest demons against relationships that have no eternal purpose. But when God handpicks two souls and says, "These two will accomplish my will together," that's when hell mobilizes. Think about this. Why has every attempt at reconciliation been sabotaged? Why do misunderstandings erupt out of nowhere? Why does distance feel like an ocean when you're only miles apart? Why does the timing never seem right, always too early, or devastatingly too late? Because there's a war happening in the invisible realm over what God is trying to build in the visible one. You've felt it, haven't you? That supernatural resistance, that inexplicable heaviness every time you try to reach out, that sudden flood of doubt right when you're about to act, that voice whispering, "It's not meant to be, you're holding on to nothing, let it go," and you almost gave up, didn't you? The Apostle Paul knew this warfare intimately. In Ephesians 6:12, he warned us, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world." This isn't about them rejecting you. This is about darkness trying to abort a divine assignment before it's even born. Look at what happened to Job. God himself bragged about Job's faithfulness. And what did Satan do? He systematically dismantled every blessing in Job's life. Not because Job was evil, but because Job was righteous. The attack was proof of the calling. Your relational warfare is proof of divine purpose. But here's where it gets even deeper. The enemy knows something about prophetic timing that we often miss. He knows that God-ordained connections have seasons of testing before they enter seasons of manifestation. He knows there's a refining fire that both people must walk through separately before they can walk together. So what does he do? He engineers circumstances that make you think the testing is rejection. He creates distance that feels like abandonment. He orchestrates silence that sounds like God saying no, when God is actually saying not yet. And in that gap, that agonizing space between promise and fulfillment, you've been battling thoughts that nearly destroyed you. The doubt that whispers, "Maybe I heard God wrong." The fatigue that groans, "I don't have the energy to keep believing." The loneliness that screams, "Nobody sees what I'm going through." The fear that this is one-sided, that you're the only one carrying this burden, that you're a fool for holding on to hope. And for those of you in your 60s, 70s, 80s, there's an additional weight, isn't there? The voice that says, "You're too old to start over. You've missed your window." Divine connections are for young people with time to waste on waiting. That's a lie from the pit of hell. Abraham was 75 when God called him to a divine connection with destiny. Sarah was 90 when promise became reality. Moses was 80 when his greatest partnership with God's purpose began. Your age isn't disqualification, it's qualification. You've been refined by time. You've been tested by seasons. You're ready for what younger souls couldn't handle. But the enemy is banking on you giving up 3 steps before breakthrough. He's counting on you walking away right before the door opens. He's hoping that the weight of waiting will crush your faith before the appointed time arrives. Listen to what happened to Joseph. Genesis 50-20 records his revelation. "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." Every betrayal, every prison season, every moment of false accusation, it wasn't destroying Joseph's destiny, it was developing it. What if every argument you've had with this person was actually hell trying to create permanent division? What if every period of silence was spiritual interference, not personal rejection? What if the reason you can't get them out of your mind is because God won't let you, because the assignment requires both of you? The enemy fights what matters. He ignores what's insignificant. If this connection didn't matter, you wouldn't be under attack. If this relationship had no kingdom purpose, hell wouldn't care. If this bond wasn't threatening to darkness, you'd have peace. But you don't have peace, do you? You have warfare. And warfare is always the sign that you're carrying something the enemy desperately wants to stop. So let me ask you directly, how long are you going to let the devil convince you that what God wrote is fiction? How much longer will you agree with hell's narrative instead of heaven's plan? Right now, if you refuse to let the enemy steal what God wrote, if you're ready to fight for what heaven ordained, type in the comments, "I will not give up." Because, beloved, here's the truth that's about to set you free. The intensity of the battle reveals the value of the blessing. And if hell has fought this hard to keep you apart, imagine what will happen when God finally brings you together. But you need to understand something crucial about divine timing before you take another step. Listen to me, beloved. I know what you've been asking God in the darkness of your bedroom. I know the question that burns in your chest every single morning when you wake up alone. Why is this taking so long? Why, after all these prayers, after all these tears, after all this faithfulness, why hasn't God brought them back yet? You think it's because He's forgotten you. You think it's because you're not worthy enough. You think it's because at 73, at 68, at 82 years old, your season for this kind of love has sailed away like a ship that's never coming back to shore. But what if I told you that every single day you've waited wasn't wasted time? What if I told you that God's delays aren't denials, they're divine protection over both hearts? You see, chosen one, there's something happening in the invisible realm that your natural eyes cannot see. While you've been crying out, "How long, Lord?" heaven has been orchestrating a symphony of healing, maturity, and transformation in two lives simultaneously. God doesn't just align schedules, He aligns souls, and soul work takes time. Think about this. Maybe the person God keeps placing on your heart needed to be broken first before they could be made whole. Maybe they needed to walk through their own wilderness, their own desert season, their own night of wrestling with God before they could recognize the blessing you've always been. Maybe God was protecting you from receiving them before they were ready to cherish you. Or perhaps, and listen carefully, perhaps you needed the waiting. Perhaps God was doing something in you that could only be accomplished through the discipline of delay, teaching you that your worth doesn't come from being chosen by them, but from already being chosen by Him, building in you a strength that can only be forged in the furnace of patience, deepening your dependence on the one who never leaves, so that when they finally arrive, you won't make them your God. The Bible tells us in Ecclesiastes 3:11, He has made everything beautiful in its time. Not in your time, not in their time, in His time, because God sees what you cannot see. He knows what you do not know. He's protecting what you cannot protect. Two clocks can tick at different speeds, beloved. One heart can be ready while the other is still being repaired. One soul can be calling out while the other is still learning to hear. But when God resets the hands, when He declares that the hour has come, both clocks will strike midnight at the exact same moment. And what seemed like a delay will suddenly be revealed as divine orchestration. But I know what you're thinking right now. I can feel the weight of it, even through this screen. You think you're too old for this story. You think your season has passed. You believe that love, real love, transformative love, covenant love that's for younger hearts with more years ahead of them. You look in the mirror and see wrinkles, gray hair, a body that doesn't move like it used to, and you whisper to yourself, "Who would choose me now?" Stop. Right there. Stop. Do you know what Sarah was doing at 90 years old? She was laughing at God's promise because she thought she was too old. Genesis 18:12 records her words, "After I am worn out and my Lord is old. Will I now have this pleasure? Worn out, old, past her season. That's what she believed about herself. But God said, "Is anything too hard for the Lord?" Genesis 18:14. And 1 year later, at 91 years old, Sarah was cradling Isaac, the child of promise, in her aged arms. The miracle didn't come in her youth, it came in her winter. Because God's greatest demonstrations of power often happen when human impossibility meets divine possibility. Moses was 80 when he stood before Pharaoh. Abraham was 75 when God called him to leave everything. Ruth found Boaz after she'd been widowed and thought her story was over. Your age is not your disqualification, beloved. Your age is your testimony that you've survived long enough to see God do what only God can do. Heaven is not limited by birthdays. God doesn't check your birth certificate before he writes your love story. He doesn't count your years before he counts your faithfulness. He doesn't measure your worth by how many decades you have left. He measures it by the eternal value he placed in you before time began. God aligns souls, not ages. He connects spirits, not statistics. He binds hearts that beat for him, regardless of how long those hearts have been beating. And right now, in this very moment, while you've been wondering if it's too late, God has been preparing both of you for an encounter that will redefine everything you thought you knew about his timing. The delay wasn't to punish you. The waiting wasn't to break you. The silence wasn't to forget you. It was to position you for a love so profound, so purposeful, so divinely orchestrated that when it finally manifests, everyone who witnesses it will have to admit, only God could have done this. But there's something else you need to understand about this person God keeps choosing for you. Something that will explain why the connection feels so intense, so persistent, so impossible to shake. You know what haunts me about the chosen ones I meet? It's not their struggle with faith. It's not their doubt about God's existence. It's something far more painful. It's their doubt about what they're feeling. They sit across from me with tears in their eyes and they whisper, "Am I crazy? Am I making this up? Am I holding on to something God wants me to release?" And I have to look them in the eye and say something that will either set them free or shatter them completely. Listen to me, beloved. There is a vast difference between what your flesh wants and what your spirit knows. Your flesh can be trained to forget. Your mind can be convinced to move on. But your spirit doesn't lie. It doesn't fabricate. It doesn't create false connections. And if God is still working on that person, he will send you signs. Not vague feelings, not wishful thinking. Signs, clear, undeniable, repeating patterns that your rational mind cannot explain away. Let me tell you what these signs look like. Their name appears in random moments. You're scrolling through your phone and somehow their profile appears. You're listening to the radio and a song plays that you both loved. You're reading scripture and a verse leaps off the page with their story written all over it. This isn't algorithm. This isn't coincidence. Proverbs 16 verse 33 says, "The lot is cast into the lap, but its every decision is from the Lord." Nothing is random when God is orchestrating. You dream about them. Not every night, but enough to notice. Not fantasies, but encounters that feel prophetic. You wake up and your chest is heavy with a knowing you can't articulate. Some of you haven't spoken to this person in 5 years, 10 years, but last week they showed up in your dream with such clarity it felt like a visitation. That's because it was. God speaks in dreams. Job 33 verses 14 through 15. For God speaks in one way, and in two, though man does not perceive it, in a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls on men. You sense their emotions even when they're far away. You'll be going about your day, and suddenly you feel grief that isn't yours, anxiety that has no source, joy that came out of nowhere. You think you're losing your mind until you find out later that at that exact moment, they were going through exactly what you felt. That's not telepathy, beloved. That's spiritual connection. 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11. For who knows a person's thoughts except their own spirit within them? But when two spirits are bound by divine assignment, the veil between them becomes thin as silk. Their absence feels spiritual, not emotional. This is crucial. When someone leaves your life naturally, you miss them, yes. But it's manageable. You adjust. You move forward. But when God has assigned someone to you and they're absent, it doesn't just hurt your heart, it disturbs your spirit. You feel off balance, incomplete, like you're living in the wrong chapter of your own story. That spiritual restlessness is God's way of saying, this separation is temporary, not terminal. Others remind you of them. Every time you meet someone new, you catch glimpses. That laugh, that gesture, that way of seeing the world. It's like God is keeping their memory fresh in your consciousness by sending you echoes of their essence. Why? Because He doesn't want you to forget. He doesn't want you to settle. He's keeping that seat at your table reserved. You feel God pulling you to pray for them, not occasionally, consistently. At 3 in the morning, their name drops into your spirit like a stone into still water. During worship, you find yourself interceding for someone you haven't spoken to in months. Romans 8:26 tells us, "The Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit Himself intercedes for us through wordless groans." When God keeps pressing someone onto your prayer list, it's because He's still working, and He's enlisting you as a partner in that work. You feel unfinished business in your soul. This is the sign that cuts deepest. You can't explain it logically. The relationship ended, the door closed, they walked away or you did. But something in your spirit keeps screaming, this isn't over. There's more to this story. God hasn't written the final chapter. And you know what? That feeling is prophetic. Heaven whispers through patterns. Hell screams through confusion. If your thoughts about this person bring chaos, torment, obsession, that's not God. But if those thoughts bring clarity, peace, spiritual hunger, persistent hope, that's the voice of the Almighty, confirming what your spirit already knows. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 11. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart. That word eternity, it means God puts connections in your heart that transcend time, distance, even death. Some bonds are authored in heaven before they manifest on earth. So let me ask you something that's going to hit hard. What if you're not chasing a person? What if you're following a calling? What if this persistent pull toward them isn't weakness but warfare? What if hell has been trying to convince you to let go because heaven has been preparing something so powerful that the enemy needs you to quit before it manifests? If any of these signs hit your spirit, if even one resonated so deeply you felt it in your bones, type "I receive clarity" below. Let the cloud of witnesses see that you're not backing down. Let heaven know you're ready to understand what God is doing. Because here's the truth that will either wreck you or resurrect you. You're not imagining this connection. God keeps choosing that person for you because the assignment between you isn't complete. The chapter isn't closed. The miracle isn't cancelled. But now we need to talk about why this is happening. Why would God keep binding your heart to someone who seems so far away? Beloved, I need you to stop right here and let these words settle into the deepest part of your soul. If God chose them for you, He will not let you walk away permanently. You've been thinking it's over, haven't you? You've convinced yourself that the silence is God's way of saying no, that the distance is heaven's final answer, that maybe you misheard, maybe you misread the signs, maybe you created a connection that was never divinely ordained in the first place. But what if everything you've interpreted as an ending was actually a pause? What if every moment of separation was preparation? What if God has been working in the invisible realm, orchestrating what your eyes cannot see, preparing what your mind cannot comprehend. Listen to me carefully. God is not random. God is not reckless. God is not careless with human hearts. When the Almighty places someone in your spirit with such persistence that you cannot shake them even when you try, even when logic screams to let go, even when everyone around you says, move on, that is not accident. That is assignment. That is purpose wrapped in human form. That is divine intention meeting earthly resistance. The Bible tells us in Isaiah 55:11, "So is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it." God's word doesn't fail. God's plans don't collapse. God's choices don't expire because time passed, or circumstances changed, or people stumbled. You thought it was over. You thought the silence meant the end. You thought the distance meant dismissal. But God kept choosing them. Do you understand what that means? While you were trying to forget, God was trying to restore. While you were building walls, heaven was building bridges. While you were mourning what you thought was dead, the Almighty was preparing resurrection. Some people are not chapters in your story, dear one. They are the spine. Remove them, and the whole book collapses. Try to skip over them, and nothing else makes sense. They're woven so deeply into your calling, your purpose, your divine assignment, that their absence creates a void only heaven can explain. Think about Abraham and Sarah. 25 years between the promise and the birth of Isaac. 25 years. Do you think Sarah didn't question? Do you think Abraham didn't wonder if he'd heard God wrong? Do you think they didn't feel foolish at 90 and 100 years old, still believing in a promise that seemed impossible? But Genesis 21:1 declares, "Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised." God doesn't give up on what he promised. He doesn't abandon what he ordained. He doesn't forget what he spoke. The person God keeps bringing back to your heart, the name that won't leave your prayers, the face that haunts your quiet moments, they are your Isaac, your promised connection, your ordained relationship that hell has been trying to abort before it comes to full term. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. God doesn't repeat mistakes. If this person keeps circling back into your spirit, it's not because you're stubborn or delusional or holding on to false hope. It's because heaven has unfinished business. It's because the divine purpose attached to this connection hasn't been fulfilled. It's because God is not done writing this chapter. The Lord doesn't recycle people for entertainment. He restores them for assignment. He doesn't keep bringing someone back to torture you. He keeps bringing them back to position you both for something greater than either of you can accomplish alone. Look at Joseph and his brothers. They sold him into slavery, betrayed him, left him for dead. Years passed, decades of silence. Joseph became second in command of Egypt, and his brothers didn't even recognize him when they stood before him begging for food. But Genesis 50:20 reveals the mystery. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. What looked like permanent separation was actually divine positioning. What felt like betrayal was actually preparation. What seemed like the end was actually the setup for the miracle. Your separation from this person hasn't been wasted time. It's been preparation time. God has been working on you, working on them, working on circumstances you can't see, working on hearts you can't change, working on timing you can't control. And now, right now, something is shifting in the spiritual realm. Can you feel it? That restlessness in your chest? That sudden surge of hope you've been trying to suppress? That quiet whisper saying, "It's not over"? That's not your imagination, beloved. That's heaven confirming what your spirit already knows. What God keeps bringing back is what he intends to bring forth. The return is not random. The persistence is not coincidence. The pull you feel is not pathology, it's prophecy. God has been choosing this person for you from the beginning. He's been choosing them through the silence. He's been choosing them through the distance. He's been choosing them through every moment you thought you'd lost them forever. And if the Almighty hasn't given up on them, why are you? If heaven hasn't closed the door, why are you locking it from your side? If God is still speaking their name over your life, still writing them into your destiny, still keeping them connected to your purpose, what makes you think it's time to walk away? But here's the truth that will either liberate you or terrify you. The next move isn't theirs, it's yours. Chosen one, I need you to hear me with everything in you right now. Because what I'm about to tell you could be the difference between you walking away from God's promise or walking into the greatest miracle of your life. You are closer than it looks. I know it doesn't feel that way. I know every morning you wake up and check your phone hoping to see their name, and there's nothing. I know you've been praying the same prayer until your voice is hoarse and your faith feels paper thin. I know you've told yourself 1,000 times, this is it, I'm done. I can't keep hoping for something that might never come. But what if I told you that right now, this very moment, heaven is reorganizing your paths? Listen to what God spoke through the prophet Jeremiah in chapter 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future, not plans to abandon you, not plans to mock your faithfulness, plans to prosper you, plans to give you the very thing your heart has been aching for. But here's what you need to understand about divine timing. God doesn't work on your schedule. He works on a timeline that aligns with purpose, not just desire. He's not just bringing that person back into your life. He's preparing both of you for what you're supposed to become together. Right now, while you're sitting there feeling forgotten, their heart is being softened. While you're questioning if God even hears your prayers, their clarity is growing. While you're battling thoughts of giving up, their spirit is waking up to your connection in ways they can't even explain to themselves. You want to know why they suddenly crossed your mind again after months of silence. You want to know why their name keeps showing up in unexpected places. You want to know why you can't shake this feeling that something is shifting in the spiritual realm. Because it is. Heaven doesn't send reminders about dead things. God doesn't keep bringing someone to your mind if the story is over. He's persistent about what's still assigned to your life. And if their face keeps appearing in your prayers, if their memory keeps stirring your spirit, if their name keeps echoing in your quiet moments, that's not torture, beloved. That's confirmation. But let me tell you something that's going to shake you. The enemy knows this too. That's why the attacks have been so intense lately. That's why the doubt has been so loud. That's why everything in you wants to give up right before the breakthrough arrives. You see, there's a principle in the kingdom that most people don't understand. Right before dawn, the night gets loudest. Right before the Red Sea parts, Pharaoh's army gets closest. Right before the walls of Jericho fall, the march feels most pointless. Right before the resurrection, there's a tomb. The intensity of your current darkness is actually evidence of the magnitude of your coming light. Think about Abraham and Sarah. God promised them a child, but then came decades of silence. Decades. Can you imagine? Year after year, looking at each other, watching Sarah's womb grow older, watching the promise seem more impossible with every birthday that passed. They had every logical reason to give up, every medical reason to stop believing, every emotional reason to call God a liar. But Genesis 21:1 says, "Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised." Notice that? God was gracious as he had said. The delay didn't change the decree. The wait didn't cancel the word. The silence didn't mean surrender. Your person is your Isaac, and God doesn't abort promises, He delivers them in His perfect timing. But here's the urgent truth you need to grab hold of right now. The moment you give up could be the exact moment heaven was ready to deliver. The day you stop praying could be the day their heart finally breaks open. The hour you decide to move on could be the hour God was orchestrating your reunion. How many times in Scripture did breakthrough come right after someone wanted to quit? How many miracles happened on the edge of despair? How many divine interventions occurred when people had nothing left but raw, desperate faith? Look at the woman with the issue of blood in Mark chapter 5. 12 years of suffering, 12 years of spending everything she had on doctors who couldn't help, 12 years of being called unclean, untouchable, unwanted. But verse 28 says, she thought, if I just touch his clothes, I will be healed. She thought, past tense. She had already made up her mind before she ever reached Jesus. She decided to believe before she saw evidence. And what happened? She pushed through the crowd. She reached out one more time. She touched the hem of his garment. And Jesus said, daughter, your faith has healed you. Your faith, not your feelings. Your persistence, not your perfection. Your refusal to give up, not your ability to understand the delay. I'm talking to someone right now whose faith is hanging by a thread. You're one disappointment away from walking away completely. You're one more silent night away from deleting their number, blocking their memory, and trying to convince yourself that you misheard God. But what if you didn't mishear Him? What if the delay is the setup? What if the wait is the weapon God is using to build something in both of you that instant gratification could never produce? Don't give up now, not when you're this close, not when heaven is moving pieces you can't see, not when their heart is softening in ways they don't even understand yet, not when God is about to show you why He made you wait. If you're still holding on to God's promise, if something in your spirit refuses to let go, even though your mind says you should type these words right now, I will wait with faith. Because, chosen one, the moment you surrender your faith could be the moment heaven was ready to deliver your promise. And I refuse to let you quit 3 feet from gold. So what does waiting with faith actually look like when everything around you screams that it's over? Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. What you're about to hear will shatter every lie the enemy has whispered about that person's silence. You've been interpreting their quiet as rejection, haven't you? You've been reading their distance as disinterest. You've convinced yourself that their pause means they've walked away permanently. But what if I told you that everything you think you're seeing is the exact opposite of what's actually happening in the spiritual realm? Their silence doesn't equal rejection. Their distance doesn't equal disinterest. Their pause doesn't equal departure. Right now, at this very moment, God is doing something so profound in their heart that they can't even articulate it yet. He's softening what was hardened. He's shifting what was stuck. He's humbling what was proud. He's awakening what was sleeping. You see, beloved, you're watching the surface while heaven is working in the depths. You're counting the days of silence while God is counting the layers of transformation. You're measuring their absence while the Almighty is measuring their readiness. Think about this. When a farmer plants a seed in the ground, what happens next? Nothing visible. For days, for weeks, the surface looks exactly the same. Dead, dormant, disappointing. But beneath that soil, something extraordinary is occurring. Roots are deepening, life is stirring, power is building, and all of it happens in complete silence. Seeds make no sound when they grow, but the roots deepen in silence. That person you're praying for? They're underground right now, not buried, planted. There's a massive difference between the two. What's buried stays dead. What's planted is preparing to break through. But here's what's breaking my heart as I speak to you today. Some of you are about to give up right before the breakthrough. You're about to stop watering the ground right before the seed cracks open. You're about to walk away from the field right before the harvest pushes through the soil. Don't you dare do that. Let me tell you what Ecclesiastes 3:1 really means when it says, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." That person's silence, that's a season. Their distance, that's a time. But seasons change. Times shift. What looks like winter right now is actually the necessary cold that breaks the hard shell around the seed of possibility. You've been praying for them to change, but have you considered that God had to pull them away from you to do the deep work they desperately needed? Have you thought about the fact that their transformation required isolation, not connection? That their healing demanded distance, not proximity? I'm talking to the grandmother who's been praying for that prodigal grandson for 17 years. I'm speaking to the grandfather who hasn't heard from his daughter in a decade. I'm addressing the widow who lost her husband but found a late-life friendship that suddenly went cold. I'm calling out to the senior saint who met someone at church who stirred something in their heart they thought had died 40 years ago. And now that person has mysteriously pulled back. Don't mistake quiet as quitting. Don't mistake delay as denial. Don't mistake distance as destiny ending. God's not done. He's just working in a way your natural eyes can't perceive yet. Listen to what Habakkuk 2-3 tells us. "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak, and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry." Did you catch that? Though it tarries, though it delays, though it seems to take forever, it will surely come. Not might come, not could come, will come. But here's the part that's going to shake you. While that person has been silent, God hasn't been. While they've been distant, heaven has been drawing closer. While they've appeared to forget you, the Almighty has been remembering them on your behalf. You think you've been praying alone. You think your intercession has been falling on deaf ears. Revelation 5-8 tells us that your prayers are stored in golden bowls before the throne of God like incense. Every tear you've cried over them, every midnight whisper of their name, every desperate plea for their return, it's all been collected, treasured, stored, and it's about to be poured out as answers. But here's what most people don't understand about divine timing. God doesn't work on your schedule. He doesn't respond to your urgency. He moves according to what Romans 8:28 promises. All things work together for good, to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. All things, their silence, your pain, the distance, the waiting, the wondering, the doubt, the fear, all of it is working together for a good you can't see yet. So let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. What if their silence isn't punishment? What if it's protection? What if God pulled them back, not to hurt you, but to heal them? What if the distance you're experiencing is actually the exact space required for the miracle you've been begging for? Silence is where God rewrites the story of two souls he refuses to separate. And if that person's name is still burning on your heart after all this time, after all this silence, after all this distance, that's not your stubbornness. That's heaven's signature. That's God's fingerprint on a connection he ordained before either of you took your first breath. But the question that will determine everything is this: will you trust the silence, or will you let it silence your faith? You want to know why it's been so hard? You want to know why every step toward this person feels like walking through fire? You want to know why heaven keeps bringing them back, but the path keeps getting harder? Because, chosen one, listen to me carefully. If the connection is divinely ordained, it must be divinely tested. God doesn't protect shallow bonds. He doesn't preserve surface-level connections. He only fights for what's built to last for eternity. And that means every relationship heaven has marked must survive 3 brutal tests that will either destroy it or make it indestructible. You're in the fire right now. And you need to understand what's happening before you walk away from what God is refining. The first test. The test of misunderstanding. Right now, they don't see you the way heaven sees you. They don't understand your heart. They've misread your motives, twisted your words, built walls where God wants to build bridges, and it's tearing you apart, isn't it? You've tried to explain yourself. You've extended olive branches that got thrown back in your face. You've loved them in ways they couldn't recognize, served them in ways they never acknowledged. And the more you try, the more misunderstood you become. But here's what you need to hear. Joseph's own brothers threw him in a pit because they misunderstood his dreams. They thought he was arrogant. They thought he was delusional. They thought God had made a mistake choosing him. Genesis 37:8 says, his brothers were jealous of him. They couldn't see that his dreams weren't about ego, they were about survival. 20 years later, those same brothers would bow before him, begging for the bread only he could provide. The misunderstanding wasn't the end of the story. It was the middle. David's own father didn't even think to call him when the prophet came looking for the next king. 1 Samuel 16:11 records the moment. Samuel asked, "Are these all the sons you have?" "There is still the youngest," Jesse answered, "but he is tending the sheep." His own father forgot him, misunderstood his worth, underestimated his calling. But God hadn't forgotten, and neither has he forgotten you. The person you're praying for doesn't see you clearly right now because the timing isn't right for their eyes to open. But misunderstanding doesn't mean mistake. It means you're in the process of being proven. The second test. The test of timing. You've been waiting so long you've started to believe the answer is no. The silence has convinced you that God changed his mind. The delays have made you question if you heard him correctly in the first place. But beloved, divine timing never feels fair to human hearts. Abraham waited 25 years for Isaac, 25 years of watching his body age, watching Sarah's womb grow colder, watching the promise seem more impossible with every passing season. But Genesis 21:2 declares, Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. At the very time, not early, not late, precisely when heaven ordained it. You think you're running out of time. God says you're running into it. Moses was 80 years old when the bush burned. 80. The world would have written him off. But God was just getting started. The 40 years in the wilderness weren't wasted time, they were preparation for the 40 years of miracles that would follow. Stop measuring God's promises by your calendar. He's operating on eternal time, and what he's building in you during the wait is just as important as what he's building between you. The third test, the test of temptation to give up. This is where most people fail. This is where the exhaustion becomes unbearable. This is where the devil whispers, "You've done enough. You've waited long enough. It's time to let go." But chosen one, hear me clearly. The test always gets hardest right before the breakthrough. Job lost everything in one day. One day, his children, his wealth, his health, his reputation, and his own wife looked at him and said, "Curse God and die." Job 2-9. The person closest to him told him to give up. But Job 13:15 records his response. "Though he slay me, yet will I hope in him." That's not stubbornness, that's spiritual warfare. That's a man who understood that what God has joined together, hell cannot separate. Even gold must pass through fire. Even bridges are strongest where they were once cracked. Every test you're surviving is adding strength to what God is building. If the bond is real, the test cannot break it. It can only reveal it. It can only purify it. It can only prove that what heaven has ordained, earth cannot destroy. If you believe the bond is real, if you're ready to pass the test, type it now. I will pass the test. Because what survives the trial becomes the testimony. And your story is about to become someone else's hope. But you need to understand something else, something that will change how you see every painful moment you've endured. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Right now, this very moment, while you're sitting here wondering if you've been holding on to empty hope, something supernatural is happening in the invisible realm, something you cannot see with your natural eyes, but your spirit has been sensing it all along. God is moving on their heart. You thought the silence meant the end. You thought the distance meant they'd forgotten. You thought the months, maybe years of separation proved that this connection was just your imagination. But what if I told you that every single day of that silence, God has been working? They've started remembering conversations you thought they'd erased from their memory. Old words you spoke, moments you shared, that laugh you had together, that prayer you prayed over them when they weren't even listening. It's all coming back to them like fragments of a dream they can't shake off. And here's what's wrecking them. They feel a pull, a gravitational force they can't explain. They'll be going about their ordinary day, making coffee, sitting in traffic on the Cross Bronx Expressway, staring at their phone at 2 a.m., and suddenly, without warning, your face appears in their mind. Your name rises to their lips, and they don't know why. That's not coincidence, beloved. That's divine intervention. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 21:1, "The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, as the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will." Did you catch that? God turns hearts the way rivers turn, slow, steady, unstoppable. You can't see the river carving through rock in a single afternoon. But over time, over seasons, the water reshapes everything in its path. Right now, they're feeling something they can't name, a spiritual responsibility, a weight settling on their chest that whispers, "You left something unfinished." They're sensing conviction for the distance they created, guilt for the silence they've maintained, regret for words they never said, and chances they didn't take. And some of them, listen to me now, some of them have started praying. They haven't told anyone, they haven't posted it on social media, but in the quiet hours when no one's watching, they're whispering your name to God, asking for clarity, asking for courage, asking if it's too late to make things right. Something has already started in them, though you can't see it yet. Something has already started in them, though you can't see it yet. You see, dear one, this is how God operates. He doesn't just orchestrate circumstances, he transforms hearts first. Because if he brought them back to you right now today, this moment with the same heart they had when they left, nothing would change. The same patterns would repeat, the same walls would rebuild, the same ending would come. But God is a master builder. He doesn't patch up broken foundations. He tears them down and reconstructs them from the ground up. Look at what happened with Jacob and Esau. 20 years of separation, 20 years of fear and bitterness. But Genesis 33:4 tells us, Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. What changed? Not the circumstances, the hearts. God spent 2 decades softening what had been hardened, healing what had been broken. Your person is in their own wilderness right now. And wilderness isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's where God strips away pride, dissolves self-sufficiency, and breaks down every wall that kept them from seeing truth. They're being prepared for a return you've been praying for. Before God reconnects paths, he reconnects hearts. So here's my question for you, and I need you to answer this honestly in the depths of your spirit. If God is doing the impossible work of changing their heart right now, are you willing to trust his timing? Are you willing to wait in faith while heaven completes what human effort could never accomplish? Are you ready to believe that your prayers haven't been wasted, they've been working? Because what's about to happen next will prove that God's delays are not his denials. You've tried, haven't you? You've really tried to move on. You went on that date 6 months ago. Nice person, good conversation, all the right boxes checked on paper. But when you drove home that night, something felt hollow, empty, like you were eating food that had no taste, and you couldn't explain it to your friends when they asked, "So, will you see them again?" You just shrugged and said, "Maybe," knowing full well you wouldn't, because it didn't feel right. Then there was the one your daughter set you up with. "Mom, he's perfect for you. He's a widower too. He goes to church, he loves to travel," and you agreed because you didn't want to seem closed off. You didn't want to appear like you were stuck in the past, so you smiled through coffee. You laughed at the right moments. You pretended you felt something. But when he reached for your hand, your spirit recoiled. Not because he did anything wrong, not because he wasn't kind, but because his touch felt like a stranger's hand on a doorknob that wasn't his to open. Listen to me carefully, dear one. That wasn't you being difficult. That wasn't you sabotaging your own happiness. That was God protecting what He's already ordained. You see, there's something happening in the spiritual realm that your natural mind has been struggling to understand. Every time you've tried to replace that person, the one whose name keeps circling back into your prayers, God has been quietly, sovereignly, closing every other door. Not to punish you, not to keep you lonely, but to preserve you for the assignment He's already written. Think about it. How many times have you sat across from someone new and felt absolutely nothing? No spark, no chemistry, no that feeling you once knew. And you've beaten yourself up, thinking something's broken inside you. You've whispered to yourself at 2 a.m., "Maybe I'm just emotionally unavailable. Maybe I'm damaged. Maybe I'm incapable of loving again." But what if I told you that's not what's happening at all? What if the reason you can't connect with anyone else is because your soul is still tied to the person God chose for you before you even met them? The Bible speaks clearly about this mystery. In Genesis 2:24, it says, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh." That word cleave in Hebrew is dabak. It means to cling, to pursue hard, to be joined together like glue bonds would. When God joins two souls, it's not a casual connection. It's a spiritual fusion that human effort cannot dissolve. You've been trying to unglue yourself from someone God glued you to. And beloved, that's why nothing else has worked. That's why the dates felt forced. That's why the conversations felt shallow. That's why you couldn't settle for someone who was perfectly fine but not them. Because a key that was shaped for one door cannot unlock another. You were designed spiritually, emotionally, prophetically to fit with one specific assignment. And God will block every substitute to protect that divine alignment. Some of you are angry right now. You're thinking, "But they hurt me. They left. They chose something else over me. Why would God keep me connected to someone who doesn't even want me?" And I hear you. I feel the weight of that pain. But let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. What if their absence wasn't rejection? What if it was preparation? What if God removed them from your life, not to end the story, but to rewrite both of you before the final chapter? Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before he was ready to deliver a nation. Joseph sat in prison for years before he was prepared to rule. David ran through caves, anointed but not yet crowned. The waiting wasn't wasted time, it was necessary transformation. And right now, while you're feeling abandoned, God is doing something in that person you cannot see. He's breaking them. He's humbling them. He's stripping away everything that made them choose poorly before. Because when He brings them back, and beloved, if He keeps placing them on your heart, He's bringing them back. They won't be the same person who left. That's why you couldn't settle for anyone else. That's why every substitute felt wrong. That's why your spirit stayed locked even when your mind said, "Just try," because deep in your soul, you knew. You knew that what God has joined together in the heavenlies, no man can put asunder on earth. Ecclesiastes 3:11 tells us, God has made everything beautiful in its time, not in your time, not when it makes logical sense, but in His time, in the fullness of divine purpose. A soul tied by God cannot be replaced by man. So the question isn't, why haven't you moved on? The question is, are you ready to trust that God's been blocking the wrong doors because He's about to open the right one? You know what's happening to you right now, don't you? Something has shifted in the spiritual atmosphere around your life. You've felt it. Maybe you dismissed it as coincidence. Maybe you told yourself you were just being sentimental. But deep in your bones, you know something's changing. Let me tell you what God has been doing while you thought nothing was happening. He's been sending advance notices, divine previews, supernatural breadcrumbs leading you toward the reunion He's been orchestrating in the heavenly realm. And if you've been experiencing any of what I'm about to describe, chosen one, it's not your imagination, it's confirmation. First, they've started appearing in your dreams again. Not the painful nightmares from seasons past, but different dreams, clear dreams. Dreams where you're talking, laughing, sometimes just sitting in comfortable silence. You wake up and the feeling lingers for hours. You can almost smell their presence. And here's what breaks my heart: you've been apologizing to God for these dreams, haven't you? Asking Him to take them away because you're afraid of hoping again. But what if God is the one sending them? In Joel 2:28, the scripture declares, "I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams." Dreams, beloved, are one of heaven's oldest communication methods. When God wants to prepare you for what's coming, He plants it in your sleep first. He's warming up your spirit, getting you ready, softening the soil of your heart before the seed returns. But it doesn't stop there. You've been feeling strange waves of peace when you think about them now. This is new, isn't it? For years, thinking about this person brought pain, confusion, maybe even anger. But recently, and you can't explain when it shifted, when their memory crosses your mind, you feel peace, unexplainable peace. The kind that Philippians 4:7 talks about, the peace of God, which transcends all understanding. That peace is a sign, dear one. It's God's way of saying, I've been working on both of you. What was broken is being mended. What was impossible is becoming inevitable. And then there are the memories, random, vivid memories hitting your heart out of nowhere. You'll be washing dishes and suddenly remember the way they laughed at something you said 15 years ago. You'll be driving down the highway and a song comes on that transports you back to a moment you'd forgotten. These aren't accidental flashbacks, these are divine deposits. God is reminding you of the foundation that was laid, the connection that was real, the love that never actually died but went dormant. But here's where it gets supernatural. People have started bringing up their name unexpectedly. Your daughter mentions them casually in conversation. An old friend asks, "Whatever happened to?" A stranger at the grocery store reminds you of them. You bump into someone who knows them, and suddenly you're hearing updates you never asked for. Coincidence? No, beloved. Ecclesiastes 3:1 tells us, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens." When God is ready to bring something full circle, He starts orchestrating coincidences that aren't coincidental at all. He's preparing the stage. He's aligning the players. He's setting the scene for the reunion. And perhaps most powerfully, you've been sensing something I can only describe as spiritual completion pulling you forward. It's like a magnet in your chest, a knowing that won't let you rest. You can't articulate it to anyone else because it sounds crazy, but you feel it. This person is part of your divine assignment. This relationship carries kingdom purpose. This connection was ordained before either of you took your first breath. Heaven starts sending echoes before the reunion arrives. Think about it this way. Before the children of Israel saw the promised land, God sent scouts ahead. Before Elijah called down fire, he heard the still small voice. Before Jesus performed miracles, the Spirit descended like a dove. God always announces what He's about to do through signs, wonders, and supernatural confirmations. And right now, if you've experienced even one of these signs, God is announcing something to you. He's saying, don't give up now. Don't walk away when you're 3 feet from the breakthrough. Don't let fear convince you that what I'm orchestrating is just wishful thinking. The signs aren't random, chosen one. They're strategic, they're deliberate, they're God's love language written across your daily life in ways only you can recognize. If any of these signs resonate with you, if you've felt even one of these supernatural confirmations, type in the comments right now, I see the signs. Don't just read this, participate in your miracle. Let heaven know you're paying attention. Let the spiritual realm recognize that you're alert, awake, and ready for what God is preparing. Because here's the prophetic truth that should set your soul on fire. What heaven reveals early, it intends to fulfill fully. God doesn't tease His children with false hope. He doesn't dangle promises He has no intention of keeping. When He begins to show you something, when He starts preparing your heart, when He sends these supernatural confirmations, it's because the manifestation is closer than you think. But the question that will determine everything is this: will you trust the signs, or will you let doubt talk you out of your destiny? Beloved chosen one, as we come to the end of this sacred moment together, I need you to hold 3 eternal truths in your heart. First, that person God keeps bringing back to your spirit, they're not there by accident. Heaven doesn't waste your attention. Every dream, every sign, every wave of unexplainable peace is God's way of saying the story isn't over. Second, your waiting has not been wasted. Every tear you've cried, every prayer you've whispered, every night you've held on, when letting go seemed easier, all of it has been building something in the spiritual realm that you cannot yet see but will soon experience. And third, the signs you're seeing are not coincidence, they are confirmation. God is moving, He is orchestrating, He is preparing both of you for a reunion that will glorify His name and fulfill His purpose. But I need you to know something deeper than knowledge itself. You are not alone in this journey. Even when the waiting feels unbearable, even when doubt whispers lies, even when the silence stretches long, God is working. He hasn't forgotten. He hasn't abandoned. He is positioning every piece with divine precision. And you have us. Right here, right now, this community of believers who understand your struggle. We see you. We believe with you. We will stand in the gap when your faith feels weak. So let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your soul. If God has been faithful enough to send you all these signs, all these confirmations, all these supernatural whispers, don't you think He's faithful enough to finish what He started? Now, before you leave this sacred space, let me pray over you with the authority of someone who has watched God perform miracles for 5 decades. Father God, I place my hand on the shoulder of every person hearing these words. You know their name, you know their struggle, you know the person they're believing for. Lord, I pray that you would breathe fresh hope into their weary hearts tonight. Where they feel discouraged, restore their strength. Where they feel foolish for hoping, remind them that faith is never foolish. Where they feel alone, surround them with your presence so tangible they cannot deny it. God, I ask you to accelerate what you've already begun. Soften hearts that have grown hard. Heal wounds that have festered too long. Remove every obstacle that stands between your children and your perfect will. Give them dreams that encourage. Send them signs that confirm. Surround them with people who will speak life. And Father, protect their faith in this waiting season. Don't let the enemy steal their hope. Don't let doubt rob them of the miracle that's already in motion. Give them supernatural patience and divine confidence that what you've promised you will perform. In Jesus' mighty name, Amen. Now, I need you to do something. Comment below and tell us what God spoke to your heart today. Ask for prayer, we will surround you. Share your testimony, it might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. And please, share this message with someone who's holding on by a thread, believing for someone who seems lost. Remind them they're not alone. If this word has touched your soul, subscribe to this channel and let's continue this journey together. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. Until we meet again, hold on, chosen one. Heaven is working in your favor. God bless you.